Edith Stein, who wrote that. St. Edith Stein, Benedict of the Cross. So the way that God made our hearts makes it so that we want things. But when God doesn't allow those things to happen, when his will is his permissive will or his active will says, no, we're not going to do that. You're not going to be able to have that. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to accept that we can't have it that way. So how do we get through those trials when that's happening? And how do we know his presence? How do we know he's there? So one of the ways to know he's there is listening for his voice. Let's see, where did I write that down? I have it somewhere here. Right here. In Romans chapter 8, 25 to 27, I just took a little bit of that, but likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. For we do not know how to pray as we ought, especially when we're in a trial, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with sighs too deep for words. So I just imagine Christ breathing on me, like his breath, like being so close to him that I can feel his breath. And in that moment of trial, which can be, we all have trials. Every one of us has trials, right? It can be everything from a child in the ER to in the hospital, losing a baby, you just name it. It's losing a parent, so many different trials. So just knowing his breath, feeling his breath, he's calling us to be close to him. He wants us to know his breath, which will take time, right? If you wait until there's a trial to get to know Christ, yes, you can. But if you already know his voice and you know his breath, time in the Blessed Sacrament, that's a time to know that, so that when things are happening, you just breathe him in. Just breathe him in. And going with him into the desert. Has everybody here been married? Mm-hmm. So you've all gone on honeymoons? Maybe you haven't, but there is such a thing. How many, when you went on your honeymoon, would think, but wait a minute, I want to make sure I get the laundry done at home. I'll be right back. Let me run home and get the laundry done, and I'll come back to Hawaii, or wherever your honeymoon was. No, you let go of all of that, and you go with your spouse on the honeymoon. You don't worry about, but my best friend needs me to, whatever. No, you're with him. You're with him. And that's what he wants to do. So Lent is such an amazing time. We get this like 40-day honeymoon with Christ, to be with him in the desert, to know his voice, to know what it feels like to have him breathe on you. Just to breathe him in. It's so beautiful. So my daughter Bridget just gave birth. Many of you know that, but she just gave birth on Sunday night? Mm-hmm. Sunday night, 11:02. We were talking a couple weeks before she gave birth, and she said, Mom, I am really desiring this labor. And she said, I'm looking forward to that act of love, like for my child. And I was explaining this to someone else, and they said, oh, of course, she just can't wait to get that baby in her arms. And I said, no, she wants to go through this act of love. She wants to give of herself. That's the feminine genius. She wants to give of herself. It's that longing to pour yourself out. So when she gave birth, it was not the way she had hoped. It was extremely fast and extremely intense. And as soon as she gave birth, little Michael came out. She almost looked like she was in a trance, like almost unconscious. And I just put that baby on her chest. I'm a birth doula, so I'm at the birth. Put the baby on her chest and just told her, all I could say, it just came, breathe him in. Breathe him in. And she just like that. And it just came over her, this relaxation. And for those of you, you guys probably already know this, I'm still waking up to this stuff, but I was on the phone last night with my other daughter's midwife because we got another baby coming. And she said, yeah, the best thing, if a baby is having any struggle at all, you just breathe on them. And it's the best thing for a baby when they're struggling, is for the mother to breathe on them. So it's that breath to breath. God, of course, what would he give to make someone struggling better? A breath, right? He knew. And so having that baby right there and close to you, but then there's another thing about it. That baby has been in amniotic fluid for 9 months. What does the mother's breast smell like? It smells like amniotic fluid, because those glands secrete not anybody's amniotic fluid, but that mother's amniotic fluid. Her breast smells like that. So the baby knows the scent. If we are going through trials and he breathes on us and we take that in and we know his scent, we know the scent of eternity because our hearts are longing for it, right? That's the place our hearts are longing for, is eternity. And he is eternity, right? So we're longing for his kingdom. We're longing for him. Just breathe it in. And the best place for all of this is the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, right? We're with Christ in the Eucharist, or daily Mass. That having him with us in the Eucharist. Kind of a funny story. My daughter Megan, first part's not funny. She fell and lacerated her liver in intensive care. And she said, later she said, Mom, I couldn't see you and I couldn't hear you, or I couldn't see you, but I knew you were there, so I wasn't afraid. And I said, how did you know? And she said, I could hear you. So I used to have really bad allergies and I would sniff all the time. People, you want tissue? I'm like, wait a minute, you take the tissue, I don't need it. You know? Didn't even know I was doing it, but all my kids knew my sniff. And that's how she knew. She knew, I knew Mom knew when you were there because I could hear you. And I thought, wow, that is such a way that God has for us to know. A baby, when they're born, they know their mother's voice, right? So they know their breath, they know their smell, and they know their voice. So this is what we need with Christ when we're struggling, we're having trials, when we're in joy, to know his voice. And he gives us Lent. He gives us this wonderful 40 days. To celebrate this time with him, of going through the passion with him, out into the desert. So, because it's what he's longing for. He desired his passion. He desired it because it was his act of total love. And he wanted to go through his passion for us, like Bridget wanting to go through labor. She wanted that act of total self-giving. I don't know, I'm sure all of you are aware of Saint Therese, the little flower. She wrote The Little Way. She's helping people all over the world, even though she never left her little cloister, with growing closer to Christ in little ways. So in Alençon, France, and actually it's not in Alençon, it's in Lisieux, where she grew up. There's a stairway. And anyway, she was in Alençon, the stairways in Alençon. They moved to Lisieux after her mother died, Zélie died. So in Alençon, there's a stairway, and it's a very, very steep stairway. I mean, as an adult, it's hard to walk down because it's super steep. And so little Therese would go to the top of the stairs, and her mother, who made lace, Zélie made lace, would be in this room right off the stairway. And Therese, if she had to get down the stairs, she would say, Mama, and her mother would say, Therese, and she would take a step. Mama, and then she'd hear, Therese, and she'd take another step. And she'd get all the way down the steps, one step at a time. Isn't that beautiful? And this is where the little way was born. The spirituality of Saint Therese, who her mother Zélie wanted to be a visitation sister, nun. and she wasn't able to. But her daughter, Leonie, did become a visitation nun, and she was able to stay in the convent and do what was expected of her because of Therese's little way. And now she's up for canonization too, Leonie. So 2 saints in the family. Which brings me to, so this is show and tell. Here, you can pass that around. And don't worry about it, it's on my phone. So this is a very precious gift I got for Christmas. So Saint Zélie Martin, she and I share a wedding anniversary, so she's my patron saint of my wedding. She was a lace maker in Alençon. Alençon lace was worn by the royalty. It was extremely expensive and hard to get because one little postage stamp size took an entire day to make. So there was none of this rush, throw it into a machine and out comes. So this is actually lace from Alençon, France during the time of Zélie Martin. Whether she made it or one of her workers made it or someone else, but this would have been worn by women in France, or actually it took it all over the world, but don't I look like 1800s? So this is a gift that my children all got me for Christmas. And one of my sons said, "Mom, is that what you wanted?" And I said, "I did not even know this was possible." Like it never even crossed my mind you could get Alençon, France lace from the 1800s. It never even crossed my mind. So I'll send this around too if you guys want to look at it. But Zélie knew her husband was a clockmaker and jewelry maker, and she made lace. They knew that things don't happen quick, right? Delicate gospel charity is part of the Regnum Christi spirituality. We do delicate gospel charity. Well, delicate gospel steps toward Christ. You know, that spirituality, that 40 days in the desert. It's not quick one and done, you know? If you were going on your honeymoon with your husband and you said, you know, can we just make this a 1-hour event and be done? That would be a little hard for him. And it'd be hard for you too, right? You wouldn't even think of that. So 40 days with Christ in the desert, what an incredible gift. So I probably need to speed up here. Just come on. So we want to remember, our responsorial psalm today. Remember the marvels the Lord has done. So while we're going through trials, we want to glance at our trials. Just, quick glance. Spilt milk, interesting. And then gaze at Christ. Gaze into his eyes, like a mother gazes into her child's eyes, while you breathe him in. So as a trial approaches, take a deep breath of his air, his breath, his Holy Spirit, and then move forward and respond without reacting, okay? And that is how you can, once you can know his voice, once you can know his breath, then you will start to recognize the things he's telling you in your heart, okay? You'll start to know his voice. And the more you know his voice, the more it will drown out the spilt milk, which spilt milk can be really bad when someone breaks a glass full of milk in your glass and milk, especially if there's little kids running around and Cheerios in there. It can get really ugly. So that's where we can go, okay. So beauty infuses the soul with the glory of God. So when we're looking at a situation, when we're looking at a trial, knowing the weight of our neighbor's glory, that's C.S. Lewis, but just knowing the glory of God that's in each of our neighbors, it really helps us in trials. You don't know what kind of heartache, betrayal, pain someone else is gazing out from. You don't know where that's coming from. You don't know the weight of another person's cross or the grace they have to carry it. It's so much easier to breathe in Christ, listen to him, and choose love to bring beauty into that situation. And then marvel at the beauty, okay? So to close with, the women of Westfield team, or Northside, I'm not sure what we're calling them, but they're these women that meet, this team of Reagan Christie women. They put together a little gift bag for each of you to remind you of the blessing of Lent. So Allie's going to explain it. Allie's on the team.
Just adding up, this is like a palpable reminder that God will lead us into the desert, but also in that desert is where He will communicate with us. So there's some kinetic sand in here, and just a little quote to remind us through this Lent that God is with us, and that in that desert is where He will talk to us.
That was as close as we get to burlap. And we were gonna put ashes on it, but we didn't have gas fireplace, so there's lots of gas.
There's
ashes.
ashes.
There you go. If you wanna put ashes on it to remind you of the gift of Lent.
It's still hot.
Yeah, some of those might be.
Yeah. And then there's a little quote inside from Hosea of Jesus drawing you into the desert. Amber, that came to her heart, the quote from Hosea. Yeah. So, thank you.
It was so sweet, thank you.
Thank you so much.